Hi, I'm Cameron Humphreys from Humphreys Outdoor Power, and today I wanted to take an opportunity to go over a few different cab options. The weather's starting to get cold here in Indiana. We're supposed to have a snowstorm later this week. I brought two 60 horsepower cab tractors into the barn today so we could go over them, compare some of the specs. I've got the MX6000HSTC, and then I've got the L6060HSTC. One is a standard tractor, one is a Grand L tractor. Let's dive into what things they share, some of the differences they have, and maybe even which one's best for you. Let's dive in. All right, so these tractors have a lot more in common than they do differences. So I think the place to start will be with some of the things they share. If you're looking at the physical size of the tractors, it's almost impossible to tell a difference between the two. The weight of the L6060 is around 4260. The weight of the MX6000 is right at 4360. So you're basically a wash. In fact, if you go line by line, you're going to be very, very close on all the dimensions. The biggest physical difference is that the MX6000 is 2 inches wider than the L6060. You've got 69-inch width versus 67-inch width. But again, we're splitting hairs at this point. They're very, very close in terms of their actual physical size and very close in terms of their physical capabilities. If we're looking at the engines, we're both going to have 4-cylinder, 60-plus horse gross Kubota diesels with turbos. Now the gross on the MX6000 is going to be around 63. The gross on the L6060 is going to be around 62. But again, we're basically splitting hairs. These are very, very similar in terms of the power output. If you look at their PTO output, the L6060 is going to be right at 53 horse, and the MX6000 is going to be right at 51.8 horse. So again, maybe the edge goes slightly to the L6060 for being slightly more efficient in terms of the gross to what we're seeing coming out of the PTO. But I don't think functionally for most customers it's going to matter that much. One of the nice things that both tractors share on this 3-point are these telescoping links. So it makes life a lot easier if you're going to hook up equipment. Can't tell you how many times I've wrestled with stuff, getting it close on the back and then having to wiggle and pick up heavy equipment on the back end to get both these pins to line up. The way this works, you can pull this down and pop these out, and you've got a few extra inches to play with there. And that can mean the difference between picking up, like I said, like a heavy tiller or a grater box or something like that and having to manhandle it versus just getting it close enough that you can swing these arms around and lock it in. So that's an awesome feature that both tractors share, and I'm happy that it's on this MX6000. I would expect it on the Grand L tractor, but it's a nice addition to the MX6000 for sure. When we look at the front end loaders, we've got the LA1065 on the MX6000. We've got the LA1055 on the L6060, both with 72-inch buckets with removable cutting edges and round back buckets, heavy duty, skid steer, quick attach, all of those are the same. In terms of lift capacity, these loaders translate to that 1055 having around 2,300 pounds of lift capacity, and the 1065 at around 2,200 pounds lift capacity. Again, when we're talking about 1 ton, I'm not sure how much that extra 100 pounds is going to matter. But you know, if you are in an application where you do want to make sure you're really pushing that tractor to the limit or the lift capacities to the limit, that may be a slight nod to the L6060 and the 1055 loader. So like I said, these share a lot more commonalities than they do differences, but what is the difference, or what are some of the differences between the two? And I think that's where we need to dive into next. So one of the other key differences between this 6060 and the MX6000 is going to be on the outside. It's going to be how that loader valve is actually set up. So if we look here, this makes a lot of people nervous having all of these valves on the outside. If we go over to the MX6000, which we will in the next section here, you'll notice that all of these valves are actually on the inside of this loader arm, giving it a little bit more protection. Now, I've sold a lot of these. I've not had any complaints whatsoever about those catching, but it is something that does not necessarily pass the eye test well. I mean, it looks like it's going to be a pain point. Like I said, functionally, I don't think it has been, but it is something to consider that MX6000 does have those valves on the inside. One of the things I do love about this though is your fuel fill up is right here, real low. I prefer that. If we go over to the MX6000 over there, we're gonna see it up here on the hood. And I prefer, you know, it kind of just depends on how you're getting your fuel. You know, if you've got a pump and you're just pumping it in, it's not that hard to put it up over that hood. But if you are pulling it in from like a 5-gallon fuel canister, it's way easier to stay low on this guy than it is to put it up over the hood. Can't tell you how many times I've dumped diesel fuel all over my hood, which does give it a nice polish job, but it's not exactly where you want your fuel to go. So I would say it's 1 mark for the L6060 on where the fuel cap is or where the fuel tank is, and kind of up in the air there on that valve system. That's kind of a personal choice. While we're over on this side, we'll also notice that we do have that extra step on the right-hand side. On our MX series, we will not have that. This won't be a functional door. We can open this on the L6060 from the outside and the inside and have our step. With the MX6000, that's going to mostly be an emergency exit that can only be opened from the inside. So you can't actually open it from the outside, and it does not have a step there. So another one of the differences. The mirrors here are awesome on this L6060. They're going to be standard equipment on the L6060. It's going to be an option for the MX6000. So just another way that this L6060 kind of separates itself as more of a top-end luxury tractor than the standard MX6000. All right, so we're going to take a look here at the cab. Basic seat, this is the MX6000. So again, this is our kind of more basic tractor, less bells and whistles than the other. You'll notice that's our 1 mirror up there in the corner. You can add more mirrors. You can also add armrests to the seat, but for the purposes of this video, we're just talking about standard equipment. Honestly, it's a very nice cab, especially for just a standard tractor. You've got your 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive down there at the bottom, right next to your differential lock. We do have an option for a cruise control right there. And then we've got our high, medium, and low range for the hydrostat. Looking at our dash, we do have a tilt wheel there, which is awesome. We've got the ability to run and implement parked, and then we've got our regen buttons over there on the side. One of the differences we're going to notice here is going to be the treadle pedal. So this is more of your standard L treadle pedal, or basic standard Kubota treadle pedal. And the Grand L over there is going to have kind of a different look. I'm not sure which one I prefer. I like the Grand L, I think, a little bit more if I'm just going to run my toe. But this one really lends itself to running your heel and your toe. I think it comes down to personal preference at a certain point. So I'm not sure how much it matters. But there are some of the features on the Grand L that definitely make a huge difference. So let's just climb in here, kind of take a look from the captain's chair. So you do have a lot of vision, and this is going to be true of both tractors. Kubota does a really nice job of making sure that you've got plenty of vision whenever you're operating the tractor. We'll go ahead and turn the key here. That's what the dash looks like. We've got our heater blowing on us. And then we did mention that this is more of an emergency door here on the right, whereas on the 6060, that's going to be an actual functional door with a step on the outside. We do have headlights, work lights on the top. Honestly, this tractor comes with just about all the base necessities that you need. I mean, we're gonna go hop into the Grand L tractor here in a second, and that's where most of the differences are gonna come, mostly in the technology and stuff. But I think there's a pretty strong case to be made that this MX series, especially if you're just looking to get into kind of a budget cab, has most of the things that anyone can functionally want. It's going to keep you warm. It's going to keep you out of the elements. It's got plenty of capability with that 60 horsepower engine and the 1065 loader. I mean, I can't imagine a scenario where you really need that Grand L 6060 next to us. over this tractor, but there may be some things that we might want. So let's go over and take a look and see what the cab looks like from in there. All right, so we got the door open here on the Grand L6060. We're already going to notice several differences right from the get-go. For one thing, the seat there comes standard with armrest. Instead of the rear view mirror up in the corner, we've got two full-size mirrors to the side. Even as we're looking at it, we can see this whole column tilts just like the other one, but we do have this dynamic hydrostatic range right there in the console, so a little bit more functionality there in terms of maximizing our transmission, really dialing into the right gear whenever we need to. Basically the same setup there for four-wheel drive, two-wheel, four-wheel with the differential locks, and then the same range for our gears. The cruise control is electronic. It's over there. We'll go over and look at that when we get up into the seat. But this is what I was talking about whenever I was mentioning that treadle pedal is a little bit different. I think I do prefer this one a little bit more. Like I said, I like to run my heel back towards the back and then use my toe for both forward and reverse. I personally prefer that, but again, like I said before, I do think it comes down to personal preference. So let's hop in and see what it feels like compared to the other one. All right, again, super spacious, plenty of room. Turn that on. Obviously, we've got a lot more going on with the dash right from the get-go. Let's turn that fan down a little bit. Obviously, we've got a lot more going on with the dash right from the get-go. It's telling us we're in high gear. We can scroll through these displays, and it's giving us fuel, PTO, hydrostat mode. That's another difference, so we'll just kind of go with these as we can. We can actually control how responsive we want this hydrostatic pedal to be, so we can make it to where we can press down on the pedal and it's super responsive, or we can make it kind of delayed if we want to kind of build into some speed. We've also got auto throttle advance, which actually increases the engine RPMs when we hit the pedal down here. That is a feature that I know a lot of my customers love. It kind of makes it drive almost more like a car. We mentioned the cruise control down here, so it's more electronic. Cycling through these, that's your particulate filter, so it does actually give you a little bit more of a graph as opposed to the other tractor that's just going to tell you when it needs to whenever it needs to cycle. This is telling us when the engine oil was changed, our hour meter, and then we're right back to fuel. So I do think that this is a lot more ergonomic. So if we just look at like where the controls are, this lever, for example, on the MX was way back here next to the seat belt. That's controlling your rear PTO lift arms. This is your actual PTO throttle, and then this is your loader arm, which is just a lot more comfortable than the other one. It's down here. This is kind of up a little bit more, and then it does also have that accelerator button down here where you can give it a little bit more gas. That's used if you are going into a big load. You don't necessarily have the throttle where you need to, but you don't have to take your hands off anything if you need to give yourself more RPMs to get that picked up. You can just hit the button and those RPMs will go up. So this tractor definitely gives us a lot more features, and to be fair, the customers that have purchased these Grand L tractors off of me always love them, and they never want to go back to a standard L again. So there is merit to a lot of the features that they have, but like I was saying whenever I was sitting in the MX6000, I'm not sure that this tractor does that much more than that tractor. This is truly a luxury tractor. So if you want some of those luxury features, then this guy's going to be the guy for you. If you're looking for the best bang for your buck 60 horsepower cab tractor, that's going to be the MX6000 all day long. Overall, it comes down to a lot of little creature comforts in this Grand L series that you don't get with the MX series. And that's where we're going to see the price difference as well. So on average, these Grand L tractors are about $10,000 more than the MX series, which whenever we start looking at some of these features, all the electronics and stuff, and some of the ways that they make life easier, for a lot of people it's worth it. For others it's not, and those are the people who end up choosing the MX6000. And like I said, I don't think that's a bad choice. It just depends on what kind of features you're after and what's important to you while you're working. Well, there you have it. That's been a quick run through of the similarities and differences between the two models. I think both of them have a place in the lineup. The MX6000 really has perfected the simplicity of the just standard tractor. The Grand L6060 is more of a precision instrument, I would say, more of a luxury instrument as well. Certainly a lot more creature comforts there than in the standard tractor. But the standard tractor is also great for most people. And like I said while I was sitting in the cab, I think functionally it's going to check off most of the same boxes, especially if you're that customer who's just looking to get the most bang for their buck. So both of them great tractors. If you're wanting a few more luxury features, then that Grand L is going to be the way to go for sure. Bang for your buck champion is right here, the budget beast. But like I said, both tractors are amazing. Make sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment on which tractor you prefer. And if you're in the neighborhood, make sure to swing by Humphrey's Outdoor Power and you can test drive both and give us your opinion. Thanks and have a wonderful day.